pioneer. Not until his arrival at Western in 1962 was there ever a full-time head track coach. And when he started, the Hilltoppers were off and running. In his first year, WKU finished second in the Ohio Valley Conference track meet. Ecker then led Western to the first 3 of the next 12 straight OVC titles. His talent stretched well beyond the track. He authored more than a dozen books. 2 of those he wrote while he was on the Western staff. In 1964, the U.S. State Department selected Ecker to conduct a 10-week lecture tour in Europe. Bigger things called Ecker in 1966. He left Western to become the national and Olympic track and field coach in Sweden. Ecker laid the foundation for the many successes the Hilltopper track program now enjoys. Western rose to national prominence in the 1970s and is a Sun Belt Conference power today. A Hilltopper pioneer, 1997 Western Athletic Hall of Fame inductee, Tom Ecker.
"35 years ago, Dean Ray Cravens of Western called me. I was the track coach at Elizabethtown High School in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And he asked me if I might be interested in becoming the track coach and starting a cross-country program at Western. Judy and I decided we would do that, so we called the 3 kids together. They were 5, 4, and 2, to explain to them that we were going to be leaving Elizabethtown. The little one didn't understand. But Wendy and Carrie, who were then 5 and 4, did understand. And that night, I was walking by Wendy's room, and I heard her saying her prayers. And she said, "Goodbye, God, we're moving to Bowling Green." I was blessed to come to Western at a time when there were coaches here who would be very helpful in helping me along, particularly football coaches. Until then, I didn't know that football coaches could be friendly. Those who know my experiences in Elizabethtown will understand that. But Coach Nick Dennis, Jimmy Fikes, and Ted Hornback, of course, who was coaching basketball, and Mr. Diddle, and later Johnny Oldham, and all the others were so helpful to me. But instead of taking credit for anything today, I'd like to give credit to the athletes, because after I left Western and came back to America from Sweden, I realized that we're not in business to make all Americans, we're in business to make good Americans, and we've all done that so often here at Western Kentucky. I look back now and I see what some of the things we accomplished then and where those people have gone from here. I have 2 representatives here today. Gary West represents the Elizabethtown High School team that I coached, and Tom Gard is here, who was one of the top performers on our Western Kentucky track team. Gary was the first hurdler I ever coached. But what I really want to talk about today is I want to especially have you remember our track teams of those years, because they made social changes as well as changes in athletics. In the winter of 1962-63, Ted Hornback and Ed Diddle called me into their office. The night before, they had lost a basketball game to the University of Dayton, and Dayton had an African-American basketball player, and all of Western's teams were white. And they said, "We want you to know we're changing our policy, and from now on we're recruiting anybody no matter the color of their skin." Then they said, "And what we'd like you to do is we're going to go out and find basketball players if we can." Clem, of course, was one of those from that year. And he said, "But basketball players can't be eligible for 1 year because they have to play a year of freshman basketball, but in track they're eligible the first year, so we want you to go out and recruit a nice colored boy." They said, "And because you're a Yankee," because I was from Iowa, they said, "We're sure you can do it." So Roy Turner came to Western Kentucky, and I looked at the team picture. I brought the scrapbook with me. I looked at the team picture today. There are 37 faces in that team picture from that year, the first year of having African-American athletes participate in sports, and Roy Turner is the only African-American in the picture. But let me tell you the social changes that our track team caused, and I don't take any credit for it. It was the team members who did it. One day we were going to the Capitol Theater and I decided to spring for tickets for all the track team. And there were probably, we had like 50 out for track at that time. And I said I would pay for tickets for everybody to go to the Capitol Theater. So I had the whole team there, and they were filing in one at a time, and the manager was counting them as they were going in, and I was going to pay the tab as soon as they got in. But when Roy Turner got up there, they said he'd have to sit in the balcony. And so I said, okay, everybody out. We're all leaving the theater. Well, the manager came over to me and says, well, we can make an exception maybe this time. And Roy Turner was the first black person to sit on the main floor of the Capitol Theater. We had a similar experience at Beach Bend Park that year. Roy Turner was inducted into the Track and Field Hall of Fame here at Western a few years back, and he told the story, which I'd forgotten, but I called Tom Graham, who was one of his best friends from that time, and Tom Graham was the best man in Roy's and Gwen's wedding in Dallas. But anyway, he corroborated what happened, and that was that we had run a track meet at Eastern Kentucky. We were on our way home. We had a bus full of people, probably 35 to 40 people in the bus, and we had ordered ahead meals for everybody. We got to the restaurant, and when they saw Roy, they said, you have to go in the back door and eat in the kitchen. So we left the meals there, called everybody back out, got back on the bus, and left. The worst experience we had, we were invited that year to participate in a track meet in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it was just the mile relay team. So there were just 5 of us in the car. I was the coach and 4 athletes. Roy Turner was one of the 4. We knew we couldn't stay in a hotel there where we could all stay together. So I decided what we would do is we'd drive down in the morning, we'd compete in the early evening, and then drive back all night, or however much of the night it took to get back to Bowling Green. Well, on the way back, we were a little hungry, so we stopped at a roadside inn, which also had a gas station. I'll never forget it. And we saw the billboard up above the gas station. It's a full-size billboard. I decided Roy better stay in the car, and I better go in and get something for everybody to eat. Because on the billboard it said, we will not rest until the 4 Ks are dead. And there were pictures of 4 people on that billboard. The first one was President John Kennedy. Second one was Attorney General Robert Kennedy. Third was Civil Rights leader Martin Luther King. And fourth was Nikita Khrushchev, premier of the Soviet Union. Times have changed, and I hope that our people on our track team helped make some of those changes. Of course, we had many more African Americans the next 2 years, but Roy Turner was definitely a pioneer. He put up with a lot, and our kids helped him through it. And I just want to commend them and say that I don't want to take any credit for what happened at Western Kentucky. I think those social changes that have come about and still have a long way to go are really the important contribution that we made, and I think Roy Turner and Tom Graham deserve a great deal of the credit.